Welcome everyone to a new edition of Spoiler Warning, this time focusing largely on the part-time nature of the Bloodline, more part-time contracts coming, as well as a discussion about the incoming plans for the premium live events, a little bit on big names looking to get big pushes such as Andrew Dawkins, Baron Corbin, and some update on Kenny Omega and the Elite from AEW. Welcome everyone, I am Tom Colohue for those who don't know. Let's jump straight into it before we then start to get to your comments. If you're watching on YouTube, please remember to hit the thumbs up. We are one subscriber away from 1710. So, you may have noticed from our thumbnail that we are talking part-time Bloodline, not necessarily just a part-time Roman Reigns, though the title is focused more on Roman Reigns. Roman is one of the first people in the position that he is in to achieve such a substantial contract which suits him so perfectly. Upon being given the second world title, Roman Reigns entered contract negotiations directly with Vince McMahon himself and was able to get a deal at such limited dates that he's actually likely to appear less than Brock Lesnar for the rest of the year. That's right, we're going to see more of Brock Lesnar than we're going to see of Roman Reigns for the rest of this year. There are a number of different people in the Bloodline who are already thinking about the same concept. Paul Heyman, for example, is looking to reduce his dates. We didn't see Jimmy Uso on SmackDown, though this is not believed to be part of the negotiations when it comes to Roman. But what I will say is that the Usos also are likely to start looking towards limited dates. If you've been here regularly, you'll know that Sasha Banks and Naomi were also in contract negotiations, which included the possibility of limited dates, because Roman Reigns has opened quite the door. There are a number of people in the WWE who are already on limited dates, most notably Randy Orton, Edge and AJ Styles, and that is of course before you factor in names such as Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey, but it's becoming more and more sought after and more popular. In fact, Triple H, from what I can tell, is eager to do that exact thing. Limited dates will save the company money because they'll have to pay less in order to achieve less, essentially. It also means that they'll be able to rotate through wrestlers and superstars, as it were, lower down the card. It creates opportunities for people such as Johnny Gargano, for example, if Roman Reigns isn't there every week, cutting a promo and wrestling in the main event. It also creates opportunities for a Sami Zayn, who recently signed a new contract, as with Kevin Owens as well, which were full-time dates. There was nothing limited date about those contracts. It does create opportunities for them. There are a number of people currently discussing it. Sheamus, I believe, is one of those who is discussing the possibility of limited dates. Drew McIntyre, not so much, but there are also a number of people in the women's division, for example, Charlotte Flair. We are also going to be talking about the premium live event plan, which has been held by Nick Khan. This news broke via WrestleNomics over the last couple of days. I've reached out for clarification and got quite a bit for you. So the news was that Day 1 has been cancelled. The first pay-per-view of the year has been cancelled, with the Royal Rumble now set to reprise its role as the first pay-per-view of the year. This means that between Survivor Series at the end of November and the Royal Rumble at the end of January, 3 whole months. 3 whole months. Admittedly, it's basically just December and January, so 2 whole months. We will not be getting a pay-per-view at all. This is part of a cohesive plan by Nick Khan to raise attendance by creating greater scarcity. Thank you kindly, Michael, for renewing your channel subscription over on Twitch. That is a 20th month, currently still the record holder. Thank you kindly, Michael. So, by creating scarcity, having less premium live events, what we are going to see is, according to Nick Khan, greater attendances and the potential for more wrestling events to take part in bigger stadiums. This is also believed to be linked to the issues they had with Money in the Bank this year. They are considering making some major changes. The first ones to go will be pay-per-views with names such as Hell in a Cell, TLC, and most notably, Money in the Bank itself. There is definitely discussion as regards changes to be made to the Money in the Bank layout. I'm going to jump into the chat, answer some questions, and I still have plenty of news to come as well. Most notably, Triple H currently down with COVID, a bit on Angelo Dawkins, Baron Corbin, and an update with AEW, particularly as regards the Elite. We are going to catch up on the chat, say hi, answer some questions. If you're currently watching on YouTube, which there are 72 of you right now, please remember to hit thumbs up. We have 19 likes and 72 viewers. So that means 50 people have not hit that thumbs up, and if you can, I'd be very appreciative. As I mentioned, we are just one subscriber away from 1,710. We also, stay tuned at the end as well, because I've set up a little bit of a surprise right at the end of the stream. That's if we make it to 11 o'clock, of course, but I've set up a bit of a surprise right at the end of the stream. So, Spider Boss is the first one to say hi, says, hello Tom, what do you think about the current booking of the women's division of WWE? It is improving vastly. I do like the Damage Control are heavily involved. The women's tag team championships have been a key factor over the past few months. Liv Morgan got a good opportunity, though of course didn't quite take it as well as she could have. But we have 2 women's matches happening on SmackDown this upcoming week. Meanwhile, over on Raw, we're seeing plenty of Alexa Bliss, Asuka, and of course a key central feud between Bianca Belair and Bayley. So I'm quite happy about it, to be completely honest. I think it's working nicely. Eric Douglas on YouTube says, Tom, how are you doing, buddy? Also, any news on who Cora could pick tonight? Plenty of possibilities. There are many logical choices. I think Dakota Kai makes the most sense, but I can't sit here and say I know for certain. Simon is asking about something WrestleTalk have said. It says WrestleTalk today said the past new contract talks between Sasha and Triple H broke down in the most recent past. Okay, Simon, here's what I need to know. What is the most recent past? Who are WrestleTalk source? How do we know that this wasn't something that happened even before Triple H got into play? If you can answer all those questions for me, I'd be grateful. Hey, Dimitar, how's it doing, man? How's it doing? How's it going? Says, hi, Tom. How's it going? Haven't been here in a long time. Hopefully you're doing great. I'm doing very well, thank you, Dimitar. Welcome back. It's great to see you, mate. Hope you're good. David Leary says, hello, everyone. Hello, David. Hello, indeed. Ross Mendes says, evening all. Hope you all had a good weekend. Interested to hear what Tom has for us tonight. Plenty to discuss indeed. Bailey says, hello, Tom. Welcome, Bailey. Spider-Boss says, Fightful reported some familiar faces were seen on NXT. Yes, as I reported when Triple H first took over, we would see a lot more integration between NXT and the rest of the roster. That has proven true consistently. Wiggly, how you doing, mate? Spider-Boss says, Io and Dakota will defend the women's tag team titles on SmackDown this Friday. They will indeed. Wiggly says, you won't believe who I met tonight. No idea, mate. Tell me. Spider-Boss is surprised that Brock Lesnar is appearing 2 Monday Night Raw in a row. We're going to see a lot of him coming up. A lot of him, at least until Survivor Series. Venom says, hi, Tom. How are you? Doing very well, thank you, Venom. Welcome to the show. Brad Becker says, hello, Tom. Hello, Brad. Austin Palmeter says, Triple H got COVID. Well wishes to him. Well wishes to him indeed. He will not be at Raw tonight, and he will not be at SmackDown next week. Chances are as well he won't be at Raw the week after. However, he's laid things out with long-term booking in mind. Road Dogg will do the job just fine. Also, Triple H is still running the show. He's just doing it from a remote location. He will still be heavily involved in making sure that everything runs smooth. Turnbuckle Studios says, that's insane. Welcome, Turnbuckle. How you doing, mate? Jermaine says, hi, Tom. Hi, Jermaine. How are you? Callie says, good evening, Tom. Hope you're well. Very well, thank you. Simon says, we'll get the belts off of them. What are the tag teams fighting for? The belts are coming off the Usos relatively soon. I expect it to be done before or at WrestleMania. Both championships at an empty bloodline when it comes to championships, as I reported last week. Joey, welcome, says, hey Tom, what pay-per-views do you see returning with the changes being made? Very few. I think, in essence, we'll still get the same pay-per-views, we'll just get less of them, and they'll get rid of the ones with specialist names. We'll still get the big four, potentially a big five. There's talk about moving Money in the Bank, but after that, it'll be a lot of familiar names. Richard Smith says, hi Tom and all. Hello Richard, how you doing? Bliss fan says, any significant Alexa Bliss plans in the future? She is currently trying to convince them to change her character to the dark character that a lot of people really didn't like. Triple H is resistant to this. Thomas says, hi Tom, who do you see Cora picking tonight as her partner? More likely Dakota Kai for me. Venom says, how close are we to Becky returning? Very, very close. Simon says, is Roman working Survivor Series this year? Yes, he is. Randy Sam says, sup Tom, good evening. Good evening to you too, Randy. How you doing, mate? Austin says, I don't know if true. That's why I want to ask you, is it true Fury might be putting his briefcase on the line? There's every possibility, but that is something that they have been resistant to. I do not expect that to happen, but certainly I've seen at least one Twitter feed saying so. I can't call them a journalist. Anyone who doesn't have their name and or picture involved is not a journalist. They're just an engagement hoarder. Turnbuckle says, I prefer the Rumble to be the first, just my old schoolness. Me too, to be honest. I think it makes a lot more sense. Stephen Harris says, WWE need to bring back No Way Out and Unforgiven in 2023. Well, we are going to get at least 2 Saudi Arabia shows a year. That takes us up to 6, which means we're likely to only get 2 more. So we'll see how it actually plays out. We're only going to get 2 or 3 more at most. Will says, do you think Sasha Banks was trolling with her teasing a match in Japan? She wasn't teasing a match in Japan. She said, I want to wrestle this person. There is no chance of her wrestling in Japan without WWE permission. She is still technically under contract there. Randy says, Tom, any news on AEW wrestlers that contract come up? Nothing new as of this point in time. I was the first to report that we'd see a lot of people from AEW leaving the company with their contracts not being renewed. That day has come and gone at this point. We'll see how it changes in the near future. Noob, welcome, says, hello Tom, how are you doing today? Doing very well, thank you, Noob, how are you? Spider-Bell says, fans on social media truly hate Ronda Rousey. Some. I don't get why fans blame Ronda for everything. Well, it's a number of different things. A lot of people are really mad at Ronda because the WWE booked her to be in a wrestling match at WrestleMania. Hector says, shoot or work, whatever the case. With Bray's promo, just made me like him even more, considering I was also in a dark place. Felt how he felt after losing my job last year, technically a day before Bray did. I just know whatever happens next, I'm here for the wild ride that is Bray's creative mind. There is absolutely no question of shoot or work. I can confirm conclusively that was Wyndham Rotunda. That was a real man. That was not a scripted promo. That was a man who was told, go out there. Once you run out of time, we'll play the video. That was it. We are not likely to see Wyndham Rotunda in that guise again. Oh, Wiggly met The Rock tonight at a private event in London. Fantastic. You got The Rock signature. Lovely, mate. Lovely. Also met Paige. Show off. And congratulations, man. I'm real happy for you. Austin says Brock was scheduled to appear at day 1. Since that got cancelled, could that mean Brock could appear at Survivor Series? Brock Lesnar could definitely appear at Survivor Series. He, after all, is booked to wrestle Bobby Lashley at the upcoming Saudi show. But Survivor Series is a big deal and they want big-time wrestlers to be involved. Michael says limited day contracts are the way to go. I wholeheartedly agree. They don't need to do live events every week. They do nothing for the top names. Very true, and I completely agree. One of the best things you can do, and this is something Triple H wants to do, is a lot more rotation so that the big names come out and you keep maybe 3 or 4 of them per a live show tour, and the rest get a week off, essentially, between their SmackDown and their next SmackDown, and so on and so forth. That's something Triple H is looking at. It creates opportunities for people lower down the card as well, who have the potential to get over with that particular audience. Joey says, I hope Money in the Bank gets moved back to WrestleMania. That is currently being discussed as a possibility, yes. Eddie says, Lucha Bros go to WWE? Nope. Simon says, how many pay-per-views or PLEs will there be? The discussion at the moment puts it between 8 and 10. They are not nailing down any particular number at this point in time, but between 8 and 10, they believe they will get a lot more out of that number. Venom says, do you think they will do Fastlane if they're taking away day 1? I do not. I think we're going to get Royal Rumble, Saudi, and then WrestleMania, and honestly, I'm all for that. Fawaz says, good day to you, Tom. Looking forward to Spoiler Warning. Well, welcome to Spoiler Warning, Fawaz. Welcome to the show. Hope you're having a great day yourself. Jonathan says, hey, Tom, how are you today? Doing very well, thank you. Had a lovely, relaxed day. Had a moment today where I realised if all I did for the rest of my life was what I do now, I will die a very happy man. Spider-Boss says, Roxanne Perez looked very good on SmackDown. She really did. Showed that she belongs in that ring. Simon says, what's the big 5 when Money in the Bank's match off to take place? There won't be a big 5 if Money in the Bank is moved, to be clear. Brad Becker says, hit that like button, please do. We currently have 40 likes and 102 people watching. I can literally see the concurrent viewers going up further and further every single time someone hits like. So please remember to do so, and thank you, Brad. Michael says, very excited for the future of the women's division myself. Lots of exciting things seem to be in the works. Indeed, the return of Becky will kick things further into gear. And of course, there are other people due to return as well. Omega says, Tom Colohue. Tegan Knox. True. Joey says, is JBL going to be managing Baron Corbin tonight? JBL will be heavily involved in the redevelopment of Baron Corbin. I don't necessarily think he'll be a manager, but more a coach. We are going to see more of JBL, though not full time. Sean says, hello Tom, what's up? Nothing much. Leading the good life. How about yourself? Will, how you doing, sir? Says, you also reported that Triple H and Nick Khan are in talks to maybe cutting back on some pay-per-views. Indeed, I did report on that, and this is one of those things. It's now come out from someone else, so now it's made the major headlines. This is why, if you're a first-timer here, be sure to hit subscribe. Check out spoiler warning in future, because news that appears here won't necessarily appear anywhere else. So be sure to hit subscribe, and the people in this chat will tell you exactly why we have moments like that with Will. Marcel says, hello, first time here, how are you? Doing very well, thank you, Marcel. Welcome to the show. Simon says, that's why I'm asking, because it's WrestleTalk, said Triple H said it himself on the quarterly conference calls. I would need to hear an actual evidence of that on the conference calls. Did they play that WrestleTalk? I'm surprised I haven't seen that anywhere else. Spiderboss says, Virgil van Dijk has a kryptonite for Haaland. I think Gomez did, to be honest, which is strange considering not long ago in Europe he had a career-ending match. Steve says, Tom, hope you're well. My question today is asking if there will be more international premium live events next year. Yes, there will. There is an overall intention for a greater level of international element to the WWE. We will see a regular UK show. I reported even before Clash of the Castle that we'd see that once a year, and there will be plenty more to come. Steve, by the way, I have a surprise at the very end of the show today. I know that you won't be able to make it to 11, but let's say if other people make it to 11, there may be a pleasant surprise. So consider that. Thomas says, hi Tom, what is your opinion on AEW not wishing Kenny Omega a happy birthday? Could this mean that Kenny Omega leaves and doesn't sign an extension? Do AEW wish every single wrestler in their employ a happy birthday? Just to be clear, I know WWE tried to, but Kenny Omega may not have wanted them to. That said, let's be honest, it is a bit disrespectful. Jonathan says, could the European Championship come back? Yes, the NXT European Championship will be returning with NXT Europe. Dimitar says, since I've obviously missed some news, can you give me a too long don't read on the Sasha-Naomi situation? At its most simple, Sasha and Naomi are currently discussing with Triple H new contracts that will see them return. They are very highly believed to be returning. There is no update beyond that at this point in time, just that it is ongoing. I'm losing a few comments here. Richard says, with Halloween Havoc coming up, what titles do you see changing hands? A few. McKenna says, hi Tom, Bray to be on Raw tonight. Maybe. He is SmackDown. Venom says, why have LA Knight debut as a heel if he's going against heels? Who says he's going to be going against heels? He may be done with Triple M already. WrestleFan says, will Edge be competing at Survivor Series? Very unlikely. Simon said, is King of the Ring coming back? It wasn't coming back this year, as I reported here. In the future, it may do, but there's not much interest at the moment. Razar says, Road Dogg went from begging for a job online to running the show this year. Indeed, he did. That's Triple H for you. Venom says, do you think AOP returns soon? No comment beyond AOP have been contacted to return. Joey says, any new news on Chelsea Green? Nope. Steve says, could Money in the Bank go back to being at WrestleMania? Yes, it could. There are discussions about moving Money in the Bank and eliminating that pay-per-view. Steven says, Day One is cancelled. Yes, it is. Simon says, Dave Meltzer said they could move Day One to another location or rebrand the show to another name or arena yesterday in The Observer. There is a lot of potential discussions about it. WrestleNomics were the ones who reported that it was happening. I see no reason not to believe them. Venom says, I hope when titles are separated, AJ becomes WWE champion again. I don't believe we're going to see AJ Styles as a top champion ever again. When he signed his latest contract, he was told not to expect that. Spiderboss says, Bray's promo was fantastic. I wholeheartedly agree. Pardon me. Steve says, any updates on Sean Spears using the Perfect 10 gimmick in AEW? Pardon me. He has no intention of doing that. It didn't actually help his character. People did chant 10, but that's all he was actually known for. Sean says, WrestleNomics said that Day One has been cancelled and no PLE between Survivor Series and Rumble. Do you think WWE is giving the talents New Year's Day off? Yes. Simon says, how many takeovers a year are we going to get? At the moment, 4, but it depends what you mean by takeover. Jeff Samuel says, "Sup, Tom? Good evening, mate. Any news on WWE European Championship coming back?" Yes, the European Championship will be coming back when NXT Europe debuts. There is new AEW news. There is an update on Kenny Omega and the Elite, but I do need to catch up on the chat before I can get to that, so stick around. Joey says, "Do you think this Y6 faction will be brave with split personalities?" No, I think it'll be a faction. Bismo, welcome, says, "With Triple H with heart issues, hope he has a full recovery with COVID. Having heart issues with COVID doesn't sound good." It does not. That's what happened with Keith Lee after all. However, what I will say is that Triple H is about as fit as he can possibly be at this point in time, so he's about as ready as he can be to fight it off. Jaden says, "Hey Tom." Hey Jaden. Hector says, "Tom, if you had to take a stab at it, how much more do you think Mox is making in his deal? Because that could affect who AEW extends next." I don't know the exact details of the contract. I don't believe he's making any more than he was making. Traffic says, "Good afternoon, Tom and chat. Hope everyone is having a good day." Thank you, Traffic. I hope you're having a great day as well. Will says, "It must feel good to see the stuff you tell us play out on TV, like NXT crossover in the main roster." I mean, this stuff happened months ahead of time. Yeah, and I feel a lot of people maybe forget that by the time we actually get round to it. But I'm very proud of the work I do here. Very proud to be able to serve the people here who come here for news. Quite a lot of people do come here very regularly. We have 99 people watching at the moment and 50 likes. If you haven't hit like, please do thumbs up. And we have more than 1,700 subscribers now. So people are sticking around. They're not just coming here, they're staying here. So I'm very proud of what we're able to achieve. Spiderboss says, "Fans and wrestling media sometimes forget Sasha is good at trolling on social media." She is indeed. Simon, I've already answered that. Venom says, "A lot of matches in Saudi are hyped up too much, and when you see them, they are crap." I wouldn't know. I don't see them. I don't watch those shows. Simon says, "Next Prime Minister, Tom, after Liz Truss, if she's ousted by the Tories." Jeremy Hunt. Just another twat in a suit. Justin says, "What do you believe the Women's War Games match will be?" The Women's War Games match will be built around Damage Control and partners against Bianca Belair and representatives. Jaden says, "Do you have any Sasha news?" Nope. Spiderboss says, "Roxanne Perez countered Bayley's belly to Bayley twice on SmackDown. That was awesome. I remember her getting hit with it. It's not very hard." Wiggly says, "I also got the Eco Bell." Nice. Nice play. Oh, Telford. He's gone to Telford. I might pop down for that one. I like Telford. SBM says, "Who do you think will return first? Becky or Naomi?" Becky, no question. DC says, "Is the draft still happening in the WWE?" Yes, it will be a yearly occurrence. They do seem to have changed it to closer to Mania time, which makes a lot more sense. Simon says, "Well done to Liverpool beating Man City yesterday. Truly shocked by that result." Me too, mate. Me too. Wiggly says, "Paige was cool. We chatted about mental health and I follow her stream. So I introduced myself to her as Professor Wigglytuff. She was delighted, gave me a big hug, introduced to each of her family members. It honestly felt like I was a guest in their home." I've seen you in a few streams, mate, and I honestly, you're one of those that you do make an impact. You're very positive, and hey, you've got a catchphrase when you come in. It's the right thing to do, and I really do appreciate that. Sean says, "WrestleLamia said Rhea has been cleared." I also said Rhea Ripley had been cleared. I said it quite a few weeks ago. This must be true because Rhea teamed with Damien at a live event over the weekend in a losing effort to Dolph Ziggler and Nikki Ash. It's a while back that that happened. WrestleLamia reported afterwards that she'd been cleared. Of course she had. You're not really reporting an exclusive there. We could all see it. I reported it a few weeks before. Worth checking out. Worth subscribing. Blah, blah, blah. Austin says, "Just got tickets for the Go Home show for Survivor Series." That should be a fun one. Steve says, "I'll always catch up on what I miss on delay." Actually, Steve, I don't think you're going to miss this one. Even though you may not be watching this stream at the time, and I hope it all works properly, I don't think you're going to miss this one. John says, "Is it true that Omos was moved to SmackDown?" Debatable point. At the moment, he's working with Braun Strowman, but Braun Strowman is not confirmed on SmackDown as of this point. He's floating a little bit. Dork Knight, welcome, mate. Says, "You excel at wrestling. Just showed you excel at football too. Joe Gomez versus Napoli looked like it could be a catalyst for a Gomez-Liverpool breakup. Thank you kindly. It was Napoli when that happened. Gomez did look like he was having a career-ending game. He got it back. He got it back." Spider-Boss says, "Do you see Braun and Mandy losing at Halloween Havoc?" Yes, but I've seen that for a while now. Their call-ups are being cancelled on multiple occasions. And honestly, it's not doing many favours to them because, yeah, they're still there. They're still involved. They're still making a lot of things happen. But at the same time, I just feel like they're kind of missing out on greater opportunities by not getting to go to the main roster. Austin says, any news about Bronson Reed? The most recent report has come from this channel about contact between Triple H and Jonah specifically. Jonah is still working with New Japan at this point in time. However, New Japan are open to letting him go as long as he's able to still work some dates. The agreement now between WWE, Carl Anderson and New Japan is sort of doing favours for Jonah in that regard. Kervin, welcome, says, I moved the Money in the Bank gimmick back to WrestleMania. Night 1 women's ladder and Night 2 men's ladder match. I'd like that. I think you're onto something there. I think that's definitely a goer. Hector says, for me, I'd like the PLEs to be Rumble, No Way Out, Mania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, 2 Saudi shows, Extreme Rules, European show, Armageddon, because that's my favourite old pay-per-view. I loved Judgment Day. Extreme Rules and whatever the UK show seem like they're going to be staying. The plan is for at least one more country to be involved. There is talk of a number of different locations being possible. India has been mentioned a few times. They're looking at different locations potentially in Europe to work with NXT Europe. But there is also a huge push right now for the WWE to try and get a pay-per-view or premium live event in China. There is a lot of money being thrown at the prospect of a premium live event in China. So that would have its own name, naturally. This would also coincide with the impending launch of NXT Asia, or should I say the impending relaunch. Thomas Phipps says, is there an open agreement between WWE and New Japan? If so, could we see some of the New Japan roster appear in WWE? There is not an open agreement. There is a singular agreement based entirely around Carl Anderson at this point in time. That naturally could change. And the fact that the WWE have been open to the current working relationship with New Japan is a very promising sign. I personally would cry on stream if Jay White ever stepped into a WWE ring. And we are closer than we have ever been to that. Jackson Rick, welcome. There's Subtop. Any news on a surprise for Raw tonight? Good evening also. Good evening to yourself. No big news at this point in time. They are working on a number of different things and a number of different surprises. Triple H will eventually run out of surprises, but he still has a backlog to shock us with. Bliss fan says, is Sonya just stepping in for Mandy or is this long term? At the moment, she's just stepping in. If she does well, she'll spend a bit more time there, but she is still considered main roster talent. She's just being used a little lower down as well. Dog Knight says, Tom, do you feel with Bray being on SmackDown that Raw could become a war of attrition for fans who just want to get through to Friday? I do not. I don't think that at all. There is still a lot of great stuff that happens on Raw. You've got Seth Rollins, you've got Bobby Lashley, you've got Brock Lesnar right now. It is still a very entertaining show, so I don't think that. Thank you very much for subscribing, YouTuber Goober. Lovely name. Thank you very kindly for that subscription. You will get notifications every time we go live with our news shows, such as, for example, spoiler warning right here, and of course our premium live event and SmackDown watch parties. Noob says, WWE has trademarked the name Lyra Valkyria. Do you think it's a new name for returning Sarah Logan? Yes, I do. Wrestler Fan says, will Triple H bring back Bad Bunny for WrestleMania? If Bad Bunny is available, then yes, he will. Triple H is in consistent negotiations with Bad Bunny to make special one-off appearances. He wants him back for longer. Bad Bunny is a little too busy to do so right now. Fawaz says, what do you think of Ariel Helwani voicing out his frustration with his interview with Tony Khan? I think that's how he feels, and I think he is entitled to feel the way that he feels. I feel the discourse against him for doing so has gotten toxic fast. Simon says, do you think Sasha and Naomi return before the end of the year? No comment. Will says, with Bray, Sasha and Naomi, I understand why people wanted them back, but we have to keep in mind when it happens, it's going to happen. Indeed. Venom says, Brock versus Von Wagner would be a good match. Tom Talks Rubbish in the house, of course, and already donating. Thank you kindly, Tom. I very much appreciate that. Another £1.79 in the coffers to help me towards full time. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much, sir. I hope you're well. I haven't seen a boxing video in a little while. I look forward to your next one, mate. They're always fun to see. Like, you go for it. Like, you beat the crap out. It's fun. It's fun. I'm currently still catching up with the chat. There is going to be some discussion on Angelo Dawkins, Baron Corbin, and an update on the Elite in AEW. Please remember to hit like. We have 62 likes and 133 viewers, so please remember to hit that button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Become a channel member if you would like. You have the option to be a channel supporter for just £1 a month, or a channel member for £5 a month. You will get access to unique videos, such as, for example, a video I just put together of exactly when and what I knew about Bray Wyatt's impending return. Subscribe if you haven't already. Spider-Boss says, Rhea Ripley returned to in-ring action on the live events this weekend. Yes, she did. She was still actively physical before that, however. She has been cleared a couple of weeks ago. Simon, as regards Bloodline versus Wyatt 6, not Wyatt Family, Wyatt 6, in War Games, that has been in discussion from the creative team. I don't know if it's going to happen, I just know that they're discussing it. Pardon me. Venom says, are we still getting India is long overdue a call. Indy, as in Indy Hartwell, is long overdue a call-up. When is it happening? Possibly tonight. Possibly tonight. With Dexter Lumis involved, there is of course a potential that The Miz will call in help in the form of Maurice. Well, guess who else has help? I don't know about War Games for NXT. I find it likely but not guaranteed. Bailey says, just speculation, but did Liv Morgan go into a new unhinged angle derail any chance for Nikki Cross to do the same? No, it did not. The Liv Morgan extreme character is extreme, whereas Nikki Cross is just insane. Sean says, Seth also faced Austin Theory at a live event for the US title. Could Seth be turning face? Not at this point in time, no. Hector says, at this point, I think Impact is content on being the third best American promotion, with weird decisions like having a story built around Bully Ray and Tommy Dreamer. I agree with that, yeah. Yep. Michael says, will there be Hell in a Cell matches at Mania? I missed the beginning of the stream. Not everything will take place at WrestleMania. We are looking at dropping the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view entirely. It has already been dropped in internal lists, but that does mean we will still see Hell in a Cell matches. They just won't be so obviously choreographed as coming up soon. Double J, welcome. Says, do you think New Japan and WWE will actually have a partnership one day? One day basically covers the next couple of billion years. So I cannot possibly comment. All I can say is that everything is on the table. Jaden says, where are we getting Money in the Bank? At Mania, will they remove the Battle Royal? Not necessarily, but probably. I feel they should remove the Battle Royal. It doesn't really help anyone. It's always been on SmackDown for the past few years anyway. Thank you very much, Fawaz, for becoming a channel supporter. You will get access to some extra... some extra features, such as emoticons, which I haven't made a new one in a while. I should probably get to that at some point. Some emoticons and some unique videos. We have free, unique members-only podcasts, versions of Nick and Tom's Intercontinental Adventure, starring myself and Nick Barbati, and a behind-the-scenes video talking about what I knew and when for Bray Wyatt. Douglas says, what about a pay-per-view in Latin America? Hasn't been discussed too much yet, but likely will still be on the agenda. Joey says, is Cameron Grimes going to be on Raw tonight? Where have you heard that particular name? Simon says, Mandy, according to the Observer Dave Meltzer, not attending TakeOver due to tragic older brother's death. Yep. That'll be it. Will says, to cancel NXT call-ups, is this a way with some NXT talent showing up on Raw and SmackDown? There is going to be a lot more integration. I mentioned this a couple of months ago, in fact. A lot more integration between NXT, Raw and SmackDown. We're going to see a lot more people appearing on both shows. The cancelled call-ups won't necessarily mean we'll see less of them. Venom suggests Cyber Sunday. Vegeta, how you doing, sir? Says, China, huh? Cena got to be there. We'll see if he's popular at the time. After all, you're not allowed to call Taiwan a country. Thomas says, imagine Jay White versus AJ Styles. Stop it. You stop it right now. You stop it. You know what you're doing, and it's not fair. Spider-Boss says, Bayley and Charlotte could be the only 4 horsewomen that keep being full-time. You say that, but to my knowledge, Charlotte is discussing the possibility of a limited date contract. Ghost, how you doing? Says, hey, Tom and chat. Hope I didn't miss too much. We are about half hour in, but there is still plenty more to cover and plenty more questions to get to. Welcome, Ghost. Hope you're well. Sean says, if Dexter loses tonight, do he still get a WWE contract or goes down to NXT? He will be getting a WWE contract. That's all I can really say. Richard says, I agree with you about Jay White. Thomas Phipps suggests Okada versus Seth Rollins. Oh. Ooh. Douglas says, is Jay White WWE bound? No. Vegeta says, Jay White is great. He really is. Steve says, I love to see Clash at the Colosseum or Roman's Empire PLE in Italy. Not sure how big the fan base is in Italy, but they did a Raw in Italy back in the 2000s. I think that's a good shout. There is talk about lots of different locations in Europe. Germany is a front runner at this point in time. They mentioned Germany a couple of times. Germany's bidding for it to try and make it happen. Pardon me 1 second. I do apologise for my ridiculous sneezes. Dorgnite says, I'm sure every idea has been said, but do you think the Wyatt family / faction could attack the bloodline and it collapsing brings back The Rock, who wants to save the family and berate Roman? I think that's wishful thinking and fantasy booking. Not necessarily a bad thing, though, let's be fair. I do think we're going to see some integration with the Wyatt Six and the bloodline. There's already been slight teases of it, and I do think we're going to see that. But at the moment, Fight Night seem to be first in line. Simon says, struggling with AEW right now. No Punk, Saraya not there regularly, only MJF worth watching. Yep, unfortunately at the moment AEW are struggling, but they have enough talent to step into the breach if they just start using them a bit more regularly. Billy says, what two teams do you see in the World Cup finals? Some really talented players out there. England will be nowhere near. England will be absolutely nowhere near. I would say we're likely to see France and Brazil. Joey says, what is holding up Toxic Attraction's main roster call-up? The fact that so many people have been called up or made debuts or returns over their heads. They're being held back at this point because they just keep throwing people at it. Venom says, Omos versus Von Wagner, please. Also, when is Von getting a call-up? Once again, we're talking about cancelled call-ups. There hasn't been one since Triple H came in. Not a serious one anyway. Blair Hathaway, welcome and thank you very kindly for subscribing to the YouTube side. You'll get a notification every time we go live with spoiler warning or one of our watch parties. Thomas says, if Sasha or Naomi return in the Rumble match, do you see either of them winning it? That is a guess based on an assumption, so I'm not going to be able to answer that. Simon says, AEW Women's Division needs more stars. Well, they've hired a lot. They've got Toni Storm. They've got Ruby Riott. Ruby Soho, I believe her name is. They've got Saraya. They've got Britt Baker. They have big names. They're just not using them effectively. Sean says, does Indy Hartwell get shown the way to the main roster before year's end? I think will happen a lot sooner than that, personally. Tom says, had my COVID vaccination last week, back at this week. Fair enough, mate. I look forward to seeing it. Simon says, are Cody Rhodes and Bray Wyatt still beating Roman at Mania 39 for both the world titles? Once again, Simon. Once again. I was talking about that as a possibility and something that they've been discussing backstage. I did not sit here and say this is exactly what's going to happen at WrestleMania. Calm down, mate. As more information comes, I'll confirm more information. But I'm not going to sit here and say, okay, this is what's happening in the WrestleMania main event. Otherwise, what is the point of even doing any of this? Even if I knew, which I don't for certain, I wouldn't be saying that level of spoiler. Spider-Boss says, now that Rhea is cleared to wrestle, who will join AJ and the Good Brothers against the Judgment Day? Nikki Cross has been wrestling with them. I would still love to see Shayna. I just don't think it's going to happen at this point. Simon, you've already asked that. You need to calm down, mate. Ross says, Naomi number 1 for the Rumble. Sasha 2. That would get people talking. Anything involving them coming back would get people talking. Simon says, is Eric Redbeard rejoining the Wyatt family? No, because there isn't a Wyatt family anymore. It's a Wyatt 6, and that does not involve Eric Redbeard. Traffic says, Rhea has been cleared. Any word on her title shot she earned before she was injured? She is not involved in the title storyline anymore. It is not happening at this point in time. Spider-Boss says, who attacked Karrion Kross on SmackDown? Drew, wasn't it? I mean, I think I saw Drew. Venom says, I hope Alba Fire beats Mandy. She's the only woman in NXT that I actually like and want to win the belt. So you just want your favourite to win, mate. You just want your favourite. Spider-Boss says, Indy Hartwell and Dexter Lumis showing The Miz the way. The Miz and Maurice the way. Let's not forget Maurice. Richard Smith says, any word of Thunder Rosa in AEW? None whatsoever. Pardon me. None whatsoever. To say that's gone dark is a massive understatement. A massive understatement. AEW rumour mill has essentially shut down entirely. And this seemed as good a time as any to discuss the update on Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. Now, A lot of people are saying that there is no update, that everything is short-lived, everything is closed-lipped. I have a little update on this. There are negotiations ongoing as regards Kenny Omega making appearances in the same gaming platform as Xavier Woods. This is something that he would need AEW permission for. AEW have refused. Negotiations continue, to my knowledge. That is what I've been told on this. That the negotiations are ongoing as regards Kenny Omega sharing a gaming-related platform with Xavier Woods. AEW are resistant to this. They have basically told Kenny Omega he will not wrestle if not for AEW, despite the fact that his AEW contract does include the ability to wrestle elsewhere. This is also true of the Young Bucks, because there were discussions about the Young Bucks returning briefly to New Japan. That has been scuppered as well. Tony Khan has shut down any attempts by the Elite to wrestle elsewhere. Their contracts at this point are suspended, i.e. frozen, meaning that they cannot wrestle, and they are not fulfilling the terms of their contract, and thus the contracts are being extended in that light. Ross says, I dislike the red cell for Hell in a Cell. Me too, mate, me too. Simon says, are you going to do a Bray Wyatt type overview video when Sasha and Naomi return? When, if they return, Tom, outplaying your news reports over that time? Yeah, if you're interested in that, Simon, I absolutely will. I'm very happy to do so. Mike Rogers says, my God, what I do for Jay White versus Seth at Survivor Series. Again. Stop it. Stop it. It's dirty. Razar says they should create a new Hell in a Cell and incorporate the fight pit design into it. I'd rather have two separate things personally. Welcome, Razar. Dog Knight says, Tom, there was a point last year where I struggled to find obvious superstars to replace / challenge Roman. Now we have Gunter, Cody, Bray. Can you see one of those becoming what-if stories? Yes. Though less now than I did. I also think you actually kind of have to include Sheamus in that now. He's earned it. Bobby Lashley's not far away, and you still have to include Seth, because Seth could replace Roman at any point. He's already comfortably there. Double J says JY versus Johnny Gargano. Not so interested in that, personally. Or Daniel Bryan versus Johnny Gargano. Again. Not again. For the first time. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Johnny Gargano. Oh, no, I'm doing it to myself. Nelson says, would be cool if Anderson comes out with a never open weight title. They have talked about that. New Japan are interested in making that happen. The WWE don't want to at this point in time, but they could be convinced. Hector says, Tom, in your opinion, would there be a way to book a buried alive type match in today's wrestling, knowing that it was essentially Taker's match? They could, they won't, is essentially the answer there. Simon wants Bad Blood, Armageddon, No Way Out. Thinks they're perfect old pay-per-views to bring back for Hell in a Cell matches to take place on. I just think we'll get Hell in a Cell matches at, for example, SummerSlam. I don't think we'll know they're coming, we'll just get them. Jaden says, when do you think Becky is returning? Very, very soon. Daz Reynolds, welcome. Says, big up, Tom. Do you think Seth retains tonight? Yes, I do, Daz. Yes, I do. Brad says, do you see all of the Big Four becoming 2-day events? No, I don't. Although it doesn't not make sense. A 2-day Royal Rumble makes a lot of sense, because you'd have the Women's Royal Rumble main event in one night, the men's main event in the other night. That makes a lot of sense. A 2-night Survivor Series, maybe, if they keep up with War Games. There's a lot of possibilities there. Thomas says, but Tom, just imagine Jay White versus Balor. Again, throw AJ in there. Venom says, when do you see Dexter actually talking on the mic? I don't. Sean says, will there ever be a WWE event in Egypt? Forever is a very long time. Vegeta says, Miz is way too psyched out. He can't win. Certainly not without help. Riyadh says, hey Tom, has South Africa been discussed for any PPV or live event? Asking because I'm from South Africa. To my knowledge, it's been mentioned but has not been taken too seriously as of yet. India, Europe, for example, Germany, and China are the front runners at the moment. Spiderboss says, carrying Cross's car accident part of the storyline? Yes. He didn't really crash his car and then get beat up by Drew McIntyre, if that's what you're asking. Razar says, I hope Rollins dethrones Roman. I'd like it to be someone a little further down the card. Gunter, I feel, would be perfect in his role at the moment, though Braun Breaker would also fit very nicely. I just don't want it to be Drew McIntyre. Doesn't work for me. Steve says Clash in Cologne. I'm down for any PLEs in Europe. We should go, mate. We should go. Spider-Boss says Gigi Dolan and JC Jane will be a great addition to the women's tag team division. Indeed, they have been. Steve Englund says, just tuned in. Who's in charge tonight? Right. Who's in charge tonight? Road Dogg will be taking charge. Triple H will still technically be in charge. In charge. He'll just be in charge from a distance. He will essentially be running it from a remote... what's the word? Remote location. That's the one. From a remote location. Venom says, who do you think beats Ronda for the title? Becky. Venom says, I would love Becky to beat Ronda. Sean says, Gigi and JC technically got called up, but they haven't been seen on SmackDown in a while. They were not called up, they made multiple guest appearances, and then went back down again. This is what I mean about the over-integration now. We're going to see a lot more from NXT briefly, and then back down again. Triple H wants to keep us guessing and help pop a rating. It works. Noob says, do you think Asuka and Alexa Bliss will come back? Yes, they've not been fired, if that's what you're asking. Fawaz says, is Rey Mysterio being kept off of Dominic to save the feud until Mania? Yes. Tom says, if Shawn Michaels was in his prime today, who would you want him to feud with in wrestling? Adam Cole, baby, no question whatsoever. If you are currently watching on YouTube, please do remember to hit like. We currently have 72 likes, but 146 viewers. We have twice as many viewers as we do likes, meaning that we could actually right now be up to 140 likes. If everyone remembers to hit that thumbs up, please do. We'll shoot up and we'll go to about 200 viewers. I do not kid when I say that that is a huge impact just one like can have on the growth of this channel. Also remember, if you've not done so yet, please hit subscribe to get notified whenever we go live. The news that we share here doesn't always filter out into the wider IWC. Sean says, I'd like to see Cora or Roxanne beat Mandy. Speaking of Mandy, she's 9 days from reigning for 1 full year. I still believe, wholeheartedly, Roxanne will be the one to win the championship. Dog Knight says, I wonder if Gunter becomes champion one day, they could have an event in Austria. The Red Bull brand is used in American sport, and the stadium there, you could get Arnie on board. True. Fair. Good way to get some celebrities as well. Marcel says, do you think Edge and Beth will be back for Crown Jewel versus Finn and Rhea? Yes, I do. Simon says, did Seth Rollins turn babyface? No. Joey says, do you think the Elite will try to get out of their contracts? I cannot say at this point in time. Also, yes. That's just my opinion. Cat YT says, hi, I'm new. Can I get a shout out? Hello. You've been shouted out. Marcel says, do you think Edge and Beth will be back? Yes, I do. Ross says, what would WWE think about the Woods Omega gaming stream? Interesting times. Triple H would be down, to my knowledge. Tony Khan, I don't believe, would be, particularly in the current situation. Sean says, Jay White versus Johnny Gargano. Sorry, I'll stop, and so you should. Tom says, Kenny Omega versus Seth Rollins is my dream match. True for a lot of people, as is Ospreay versus Seth Rollins. Hi, Cam. How you doing? Cat YouTube says, Sammy is the best thing that happens in wrestling. Honestly, I agree. He's been absolutely fantastic. Oh, Vegeta, that is all too true. A Jay White-gasm. What a world. Omega suggests Will Ospreay versus Johnny Gargano. Spider-Boss says, does Liv Morgan still being considered main event star, or is she being moved to the mid-card? She is still considered top level at this point in time. However, she is not considered main event to the level that Ronda Rousey or Charlotte Flair are. There's a lot of people in the women's division who've never seen a main event. Tom says, do you see them building up Gunter to face Roman in the Ultimate Challenge? Eventually, yes. I don't think Roman will be champion once Gunter gets around to him, though. Not personally. Simon says, Kenny wasn't able to attend AAA Triple Mania over the weekend, according to Conan, who's Triple A's head booker, due to the ongoing AEW legal investigation. Yes, that is exactly what I was referring to when I said that they have basically suspended his contract for the moment. And even though his contract does state that he can wrestle elsewhere, he is not being permitted to do so by Tony Khan. Andrew Quinn says, hello, Tom. Hope you're well buzzing after last night's win against City. I am, mate. I feel like it would be awesome for Theory versus Johnny versus Kevin at Crown Jewel for the Money in the Bank briefcase in a TLC match. If we're going to do that, let's once again feature Adam Cole, baby. Michael says, ready to walk with Elias? Yes, I am. I have missed him. I liked Elias. I am wondering what this means for the future of Ezekiel. Rodriguez says, where is Billie Kay? She's not coming back to to WWE. She's still working independently at this point in time. To my knowledge, when the WWE reached out, it was for the Iconics, not necessarily just Billie Kay. Rizal said, did anyone else cry during the Wire promo on Friday? Nearly, mate, nearly. Thomas Phipps suggests, why not Jay White versus Balor versus AJ versus Seth? Well, if you remove Seth, it's a Bullet Club reunion. Cam says, Billie Kay did appear on Up Up Down Down again, so maybe that's a good sign. It is. It was Triple H who reached out to her initially, but it was Xavier Woods who reached out to her for the Up Up Down Down appearance. Spider-Boss, I wouldn't say Triple H dropped the ball of Ezekiel. I'd say that he wasn't interested in Ezekiel at all and thinks he can get Elias over without it. Riyadh says, thanks for the reply, Tom. WWE were having multiple live events in South Africa in 2020, but COVID unfortunately hit. It did. There will be a return to a much more international WWE in the near future. That is on the agenda. When they first announced the shutdown of NXT UK, I spoke about the branding becoming continental, and that is exactly what is happening. Rodriguez says, when will Cody return? Early 2023, likely the Rumble. Hector says, Tom, thoughts on Benzema winning the Ballon d'Or? I think he deserved it, and I think it's the right choice because the next 5 are going to Haaland, aren't they? Is Carlito coming back to WWE? Not at this point, no. Marcel says, will there be another European tour in the Netherlands too? There will be more European tours. I can't necessarily say exactly which country they're going to. Richard Smith says, Bron Breakker isn't ready. He needs a lot of work. I think there are other people. I'd like Nakamura to be involved. Sami Zayn and Jey Uso are all in great positions to potentially overthrow Roman. I just don't think they're there yet. Dog Knight says, Tom, I'm still catching up on modern wrestling. Is there much history between Sami Zayn and Bray Wyatt? Could he be destroying the bloodline from within as an acolyte, or am I fantasy booking? You are 100% fantasy booking. To my knowledge, there is no real history between Sami Zayn and Bray Wyatt, outside of the fact that Sami Zayn has a history with Braun Strowman, who had already left the Wyatt family by that point in time. I don't think he's intending to destroy the bloodline from within. I think he's just looking for some friends because he misses Kevin Owens. Spider-Boss says, give me Cora Jade as an honorary member of Damage Control. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what they're doing. Cora Jade in War Games would be a lot of fun. Will says, of all these things Kenny and the Bucks can't do you know if it's hurt their relationship with Tony Khan? So, I can only speak about what I've heard from people other than the Elite in the AEW locker room, but here's what I've been told. Faith in Tony Khan is at an all-time low. The way he handled firstly CM Punk while sat next to him and subsequently everyone has led to a lot of issues, and the AEW locker room are not particularly confident. People such as Chris Jericho and Jon Moxley have taken it upon themselves to try and calm the situation and speak on and back Tony Khan up. However, it does mean that they are currently being viewed as company men, which is not always the best thing. Sean says, what would stop Judgment Day from going to SmackDown to continue to go after Ray? Nothing, and I think they will. Thomas, we've had words about this. Minoru Suzuki versus Gunter. Does that mean we'd also get Sheamus versus Shingo? Sami Zayn versus Toru Yano. There it is. Simon says you cannot enter China at the moment due to COVID regulations. I didn't say it was going to be at the moment. At no point have I said, oh, tomorrow they're going to China. That's not what I've said, mate. That's not what I've said. Dad says, Tom, who do you think is next for Rey Mysterio? Gunter. That has been established, but I do think he's going to bounce off him pretty firmly. Ghost says, potential WWE versus AEW versus New Japan Pro Wrestling dream matches. Sheamus versus Eddie Kingston versus Minoru Suzuki. AJ Styles versus Adam Cole versus Jay White. Seth Rollins versus Hangman versus Ospreay. Should I continue? Yes. Yes, you should. Rodriguez says, will Blair Davenport be called up to the main roster? Not at this point in time, no. Venom says, do you think we'll get Brock versus Volta? Yes, I do. Though I can't sit here and say when. I just think ignoring that would basically be leaving money on the table. And I just don't think Triple H is going to be willing to do that. It doesn't make sense to me. I know the man is smarter than that. Simon says, Ronda's next feud for the SmackDown Women's title. We'll find out very shortly. It's likely going to be Liv again. Fowler says, how funny Would it be that Elias makes his return tonight, Ezekiel chants start? I wouldn't be surprised by that in any way, shape or form. Or, where's Ezekiel? Where's Ezekiel? Where is Elrod? Where is Elrod? Etc. Brad says, do you see Heyman managing any of the other members of the Bloodline? He already does. He's just keeping Roman special by not fully managing them. That's what Sami Zayn is there for, after all. Joey says, what is Elias going to be doing on Raw? They've not announced anything to my knowledge. Hector says, I honestly think the way Triple H is going about integrating NXT is perfect. It's a way to show them off to the main roster crowd and also be a sort of tryout to gauge how much more or less time a talent needs in NXT. It's better than just calling up a talent and changing their name and making people feel clueless like under Vince. I completely agree with that. He's making all of the right moves at this point in time, and I do think that it's really massively benefiting NXT to be appearing as often as it does, or as it's represented, on Raw and on SmackDown. Venom says, if KO feuds with Elias, I hope he stays a serious KO and this feud ends fast. I don't see them engaging, though I do see them engaging a little further down the line. I just don't think we'll see it soon. Venom says, if KO feuds with Elias, I've already read that one. Sean says, Alexa and Asuka return soon. Yes. James Smith says, do you think WWE will go TV14? Nope. There was talk on doing that when they were trying to dead cat the Vince McMahon situation. Triple H, Nick Khan, not big fans of TV14. They don't think it will make them as much money. Razar says, Bray can make a buried alive in the Woods match. He could. He won't. Tom says, personally, I would love to see title for title, Roman versus Volta. Oh. So what you're saying is Gunter ends up with 3 championships, because I wouldn't hate it. Tom says, by the way, in your opinion, does Gunter go back to Volta one day? Honestly, no. I'm used to it now, and he doesn't much care. He just wants to wrestle. His focus is entirely on wrestling. I've interviewed the man a couple of times, and he's been very open about the fact he does not care about any of that stuff. Doesn't care much about the presentation, doesn't care much about the promos. He just wants to get in the ring and wrestle. Vegeta says, Ronda Rousey should feud with Bayley. Disagree. Bayley is still coming after Bianca. Simon says, if when Naomi, Sasha, Charlotte all return, will Liv get moved down to the mid-card on SmackDown? Yeah, if you bring in 3 people at the top level, Liv Morgan will be moved down. That's how it works. Venom says, do you think Chris Masters comes back? No. I just don't think... I can't imagine a world in which... Like, why would he? Then again, the club. But why would he? Razar says, LA Knight kind of reminds me of a mini Chris Masters. I mean, that's a stretch. Jesse CC, welcome, says, what are your thoughts on the rumours of JBL appearing on tonight's Raw and being the manager of Happy Corbin? I do think we need to remove the Happy Corbin element. I do think Baron Corbin can really benefit from a rebranding, and I think JBL is the perfect person to do that for him. I don't necessarily see manager, I see more of coach, but I'll happily take it either way. Spiderball says, any chance of Judgment Day getting involved in Rey Mysterio versus Gunter? Yes. Jaden says, what was the surprise? We're not quite done yet, mate. We're not quite done. Just wait for it. Sean says, I'm surprised Tay Mello mentioned WWE in a thank you tweet she put out, but she never tagged them in the post. Yeah, nobody actually pays attention on the WWE Twitter feed. There's no point tagging them. There's no point. Plus, you know a lot of people will be reporting on it, so I'll get back to them anyway. Thank you once again, Tom, for a £1.79 donation, your second of the show. Off to bed. Have a good night, mate. Thank you very much for dropping by and supporting as strongly as you do. You're here every show, and I really do appreciate it. Jesse says, what about a collaboration with New Japan WWE for a Forbidden Door? The Forbidden Door is AEW branding. It's not impossible. It's closer now than it's ever been. Spiderboss says, will Alba Fire, formerly known as Kaylee Ray, get called up to the main roster? Eventually, yes. Dog Knight says, sorry to digress, Tom, but I think somebody winning the World Cup might take the Ballon d'Or next year. Not Haaland, but I typed this, I realise it never affected Messi or Ronaldo, so I will shut up. Yeah. Rodriguez says, will the Hardy Boys ever come back to WWE? Again, forever is a long, long time. Sean says, Ronda said she'd love to have Paul Heyman as a manager. Could this happen? Again, anything is on the table. Anything could happen. It won't, but it could. Thomas says, what about Zack Sabre Jr. versus Pete Dunne? Stop it. You can't do that to me. It's not fair. Rodriguez says, why won't WWE put Raven on Hall of Fame like Impact Wrestling? Because WWE don't take their instruction from Impact. Simon says, your thoughts on Arsenal's title chances this season, Tom? They've got a good shot. They don't have a great shot. What I will say is that their team will get better every single year, even if they sign no one. So they've got an even better chance next year. I was saying this last year. With the team that they've got and the youth in there, they are only going to get better. It is a hell of a team he's put together. Vegeta says, Gunter is a good name. It's not a bad name now. Sai, how you doing, mate? Says, hi, Tom and all. Hope everyone's good. Better late than never. Welcome, sir. Thank you kindly for joining us. Joey says, Baron Corbin should go back to the Lone Wolf. Well, that kind of made JBL a bit strange there, wouldn't it? Michael says, I want sad Corbin back. I get it, mate. I get it. I don't question. Rodriguez says, is more of the Bloodline debuting to the WWE? There is talk of Naomi joining the Bloodline. Fawaz says, personally, Baron Corbin should be built up as a face. We'll see how that goes. He's never been a face, and I don't think it would suit him. Hector says, Tom, with Elias returning tonight, do you have any insight whatsoever on how the scrapped Elias repackage was originally supposed to go, or no? They never really had a plan. Their plan was Ezekiel, and at this point they've abandoned that. I think that's a shame, personally. You know, I mean, you've got Ezekiel right there. You may as well use the man, but apparently not. I don't know. I don't hate Elias. I don't hate Ezekiel. I like both characters. I'm glad we had both of them. I'm glad with what we could do there. It's just a case of now actually physically making it happen, you know? Noob says, are we getting women's mid-card titles? We already have women's mid-card titles. They're called the women's tag team titles. Pardon me. Joey says, Bobby Fish was backstage in an NXT event. Could he be returning? I've spoken about this before. If Bobby Fish does return, I don't expect him to return in-ring. They simply don't have faith in him not to get injured. I would see him returning as a booker or a producer. That is the most likely scenario, and that is what I expect to see happening. It just makes much more sense to me for that to happen. The same, of course, with Kyle O'Reilly at this point, who is injured, but likely to return. Thomas says, what about Ricochet versus Will Ospreay? Seen it a million times, mate. Okada versus Roman Reigns, that's probably what they'd end up going with. That's the money match. Venom says, do you think Diamond Mine will get a call-up soon, as I feel they are done in the tag title picture? Once again, main roster's kind of full. Like, you can bring up more tag teams. Legado just came up after all. But when you do that, they've got nothing to fight for. There's no actual tag team championships in play. So they need to work that out. No, Simon, I've not seen any promises going around on social media. Ross says, gutted to get Norway in Scotland's Euro qualifying group. Might be needing that playoff. Yeah, fair. Thoughts on Jota injury? Don't know what the injury is at the moment. I just want to get to stretch it off. Joey says, I would love to see Jacob Fatu in the Bloodline. We are getting to NWO territory at this point. There is a point at which we've just got too many people. Spider-Boss says, with Naomi possibly joining the Bloodline, Sami Zayn's days as honorary Us could be numbered. I think Jey Uso is more likely to be leaving the Bloodline next than Sami is. Fowler says, yeah, too bad about Ezekiel. Could have been something like Mick Foley's multiple personalities / faces. People are talking about that a lot recently. Like a lot. And for me, just maybe a bit too much. A bit too much. Mick Foley didn't have multiple personalities, just to be clear. He never did. Like, they were slightly different characters, but he didn't have multiple personalities. That was not part of the gimmick. Mike Rogers, welcome. Says, is Baron Corbin going back to his Lone Wolf gimmick? I really miss his End of Days theme. Without, like, the King thing, I really love it as well. Rodriguez says, is Black in AEW still? Yes, he is still contracted to AEW at this point in time. Simon says, any thoughts on if WWE could sign MLS Jacob Fatu? You've mentioned MLS there. I believe it's MLW. But Jacob Fatu is not going to be signed to the WWE while he's under contract elsewhere. Simon says, your thoughts on Chelsea under the new management of Graham Potter? They need to get their act together and they need to do it fast. Spider-Boss says, Santos Escobar could be a great opponent for Gunter. He could. They'd need to get him there first. He's only just debuted after all. Joey says, do you think the Dyads will go back to GYV? Yes. And Billy, welcome, says, what I would love to see is WWE approaching Tessa Blanchard about a contract. That is not going to happen. Dog Knight says, I have to be honest, and I might be in the minority, but I really loved Ezekiel. Same. I think it's a great comedy angle and brought out the best in Owens. Sadly, it came at a bad time during a changing of the guard, and I completely agree with you there. Right. So, I promised you something. There is something I want to test. Something which in future could be very, very beneficial to content creators like myself. For those who don't know, on Twitter recently I put out a call for people who aren't yet monetized, who maybe want some help and some support, to see if I can try and help them develop using the community we've built here. Now, obviously, there's a lot of different ways to do that. If you're a member of the Discord, that's obviously a great start and something I'm planning on continuing to build as we go. But there are also other options that YouTube has available. For example, there is a new YouTube style of raid-esque. I don't know if it works perfectly, but we're gonna test it. So I'm gonna wrap up now, and I'm gonna send people over to our colleague and friend Steve at SCW Wrestling. So you'll see me again on Friday for spoiler warning on Friday, and of course our SmackDown watch party. Please don't go anywhere. Stay on the stream. Let's see if this works, and you can let me know in Steve's chat where I am right now. So, signing off, I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic. I will see you all very soon.